Welcome to Clementine's Midnight Channel. This is Clementine. I am her identical twin sister. I wanted to do something easy today because my first video was so much work. Sorry, I have cat hair all over my face now. My last one was so much work. So I wanted to do something casual, easy, and not stressful, because if I tried to do something like my last one again, it would take me like probably 2 months to get something else up. Cool. So I also wanted to do something, since last time we were so much in the realm of theory, I wanted to bring things down into real life a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the Persona 4 shadow confrontations with the party members, and then I'll just talk about what's happening there, so who each person's shadow is, where they might have come from. It would be ridiculous to watch through everyone's social link as well, but we'll keep their social links in mind, since those are kind of continuations of the conflict that gets introduced when we meet their shadow. So we'll just kind of trace out the conflict in each character. We'll look at where their shadow came from, and maybe even play out like what would have happened with each character if they never did confront their shadow, as sort of like a thought experiment, or I guess thought study in this case, since there's no independent variable or control group. And then I'll also just kind of talk about my own experiences with the shadow, because I can't talk for anyone else's experiences with the shadow. And then try to get things more in the realm of like, what does that look like in real life? What does it actually feel like to confront your shadow? What kind of ramifications does that actually have when you do that? Cool. So let's get started. I will link the channel I am watching from. I'm just watching a YouTuber who has all the boss battles from Persona 4 posted with a nice resolution, so it'll look nice to watch. And yeah, all right, let's start with Yosuke.
Because of that store, our business is ruined. My parents hate me. The neighbors talk behind my back. I wish everything would just disappear.
It's a lie. This can't be. Senpai's not like that. It's so sad. I feel so sorry for myself. Boo-hoo! Actually, I'm the one who thinks everything's a pain in the ass. Huh? Two Yosuke's? Who are you? I wouldn't think that. Yeah, right. How long are you going to keep deluding yourself? Screw the shopping district, and Junes too. You're sick of everything, especially living out in the sticks. What are you saying? That's not true. You put on a good show of being carefree and happy-go-lucky because you're so terrified of being alone. The more the merrier, right? You've got to be surrounded by people to block out the pain of isolation.
So I'll stop here just for a second. So Yosuke is clearly suffering from a lack of stimulation, and his shadow seems to have a sort of condescending and resentful perspective on being in a small town and on the people in this small town. But what we see from Yosuke and how he interacts with his community, he seems to have a genuine care for or interest in the people around him. So the shadow, this is what the shadow does, right, is it'll take things that are not necessarily bad and then distort them. And that's just how it is in real life, right? So our negative qualities and our positive qualities are often very intertwined, and some of these things are just two sides of the same coin. So Yosuke, yes, maybe part of his friendliness and part of his willingness to engage his community is just a fear of being alone, and just who's he going to talk to? What's he going to do if he doesn't, talk to anybody in his community in this small town? There's not anything else for him to do. But that doesn't preclude the fact that he might actually care about these people. And I think he does, and I think that's part of Yosuke's journey, is kind of learning that he does genuinely care and that he can trust that he cares. So Yosuke's not exactly delusional here in the fact that he doesn't want to believe his shadow, and his shadow is offering up the most uncharitable interpretation of Yosuke's traits and actions. But it's accepting the negative with the positive. That is what will allow you to integrate the shadow and just kind of evolve as a person in general. Yosuke, I don't know. He's not my favorite character in Persona, or even in Persona 4 by any means. But I almost feel like he's in a relatively healthy spot, even without confronting his shadow. Like, I think he would be okay in the end. I think there's a few of these characters, I think, if they didn't face down their shadow, that they'd be in a really rough spot. Yosuke, I think he's actually coping pretty well. But anyway, I'll let him get back to it.
And what's this about checking out this world for Saki-senpai's sake? Ha! I know the real reason you came snooping. Stop it! Why so panicked? I thought I was just spouting bullshit. Or maybe I do know everything you're thinking. Why's that? Because I am you. You just came because you thought it sounded like a good time. What else is there to do out in this shithole?
Once again, he could be interested in the TV world because he's just bored and needs something to do, but he also could genuinely be invested in seeking justice for the victims of the TV world. Or I guess we're not there at this point yet, but just understanding this weird thing that's going on. Both things can be true, and that's the duality that you have to learn to live with.
A world inside the TV. Now that's exciting. You didn't have a single other reason for coming here, did you? That's not true. Stop! Stop it! You're just trying to act like a big shot. If all went well, hey, maybe you could even be a hero! And that senpai you were so sweet on? Her death was the perfect excuse.
Now, that is just mean. But, I mean, I guess that's the shadow we're dealing with. Jesus.
It's not true! What are you? Who are you? I already told you. I'm you. Your shadow. There's nothing I don't know about you. Screw that! I don't know you! You can't be me, you son of a bitch!
So, yeah, that's the trigger. In Persona 4, every time we see one of these shadow confrontations, it's, you're not me, you can't be me. That's what sparks the transformation from just shadow guy to scary boss battle monster guy. When I first learned what the shadow was, or about like the concept of the shadow, I was in high school, I believe. I don't even remember how I stumbled upon this. I think like psychology was my favorite subject in high school, and I did some sort of just extra research on my own time. And somehow I stumbled into a little bit of Jungian theory. I never got super into it, but I did read a couple quotes on the shadow that were like mind-blowing, life-changing, that really like became fundamental to my worldview. And the most important thing that I learned was that the shadow becomes more powerful the more you refuse to engage it. Now, even with my sort of head start on shadow in general, I still didn't actually, I wasn't able to actually like see my shadow the way that like these kids are seeing their shadows until I was about 28. My analyst has said to me that she thinks 30 is about when, I don't want to, everyone is kind of evolving on their own, on their own terms, at their own pace. But she said that like it's rare to see somebody who's ready to face their shadow before the age of 30. But I think that I had that sort of confrontation and awakening when I was 28. And it may make sense that I'm a little bit accelerated because I had already known for many years what the shadow looks like when it shows up, how to recognize it and how to deal with it, and I wasn't afraid to have that confrontation with my shadow. It was just, there were things I couldn't see, and I mean, that's just how it is. It can be really frustrating to deal with someone who's clearly being like controlled by their shadow, because you can see so clearly that like they're out of step with reality and that the self-awareness isn't there. But if you try to step in before somebody's ready to hear you, it can at best just kind of sit there as maybe a seed that will sprout later on and maybe help them once they're ready to see what you can already see. At worst, it can set them back because you're putting them on the defensive, and now they feel in even stronger need to defend themselves and pretend the shadow doesn't exist and deny it and insist to you that it's not there. So I'm learning that you have to be careful, because I think after I faced my shadow, I wanted to tell everyone else, no, like, this is how you do it, and you'll feel so much better after you do it. You just got to look it in the face, and realize pretty quickly that if you try to bring that to someone who is not ready for it, it can go really poorly. And it's not going to matter to them that you're speaking from a place of experience or that you're speaking from a place of care. If they're not ready, they're just not ready. Anyway, I don't remember. I don't remember where I was going with that. Okay, let's get back into the video.
That's right! Say it again! You're not me! You're nothing like me!
Right, the denial of the shadow is what makes it worse. So I think where I was trying to get to was the idea that the more you ignore the shadow, the more control it's going to have over your behavior. And in the worst cases, you can be left in a place where like the only thing that's left for your conscious ego to do is just to try to rationalize what your behavior is. It's like you're just doing things that you don't even really mean or want to do. But your shadow is just calling the shots, and it seized the wheel, basically. This is my own stupid little metaphor that like I use, but like I imagine myself, me, the conscious ego, driving a bus, and I've got all the archetypes in the bus, and you know, they might pop up to give me suggestions on where they want to go, whether I should be driving faster or slower, whatever. And as long as you kind of listen, they're usually fine. It's I'm still making the choice of how fast I'm gonna go, where I'm gonna turn, where we're going. But if I start trying to ignore one of these archetypes, in this case the shadow, if the shadow's talking to me and I'm ignoring it and saying, you know, like, go away, I'm not listening to you, then the shadow's going to get more activated, and in the worst cases it can actually kind of thrust you out of the way and grab the wheel, and now it's in control. And if you aren't able to see that the shadow's in control, then what are you going to be able to do to convince yourself that you are actually in control? Just rationalize. That's all you can do. And we are really good as humans at finding a way to make just about anything sound like it's good, or like it's coming from a good place, or like it makes sense actually. So you gotta be careful when you find yourself in that position where it's like you're doing something and then afterwards you're trying to figure out, why did I do that? Oh, obviously I was doing it because of, you know, XYZ, like noble good reason that I just came up with just now. If you ever catch yourself doing it, it's hard to catch yourself when you're in the middle of doing it, but if you ever do, pump the brakes. Someone's in control, and it's not you.
Yeah, that's right. I am me now. I'm not you anymore, see?
I'm not you anymore, see? Now I'm driving the bus. Okay. We'll skip over to the end here, because these videos have the entire boss battles in them, but this is the best that I could find. I haven't recorded myself playing all of Persona 4 Golden yet, so otherwise I would have just edited together my own compilation of Shadow Confrontations, but I am still in Rise's Palace, I think, in my own playthrough. My own recorded playthrough. I've played the game before.
Yosuke, are you okay?
Yeah. What happened? You're not me.
That thing came from you, Yosuke. You have to admit it, or it'll go berserk again.
You have to admit it. That's... Ugh. I think admitting it is harder for some people than others. It's seeing it that is often the big obstacle. Because I feel like, and granted, I can't really be fully objective talking about myself, but I feel like, you know, since I have been aware of the shadow since I was a kid, basically, and I've been looking at myself through that lens of, you know, is this my shadow? And then seeking to actively engage and incorporate my shadow when it does pop up. I feel like it's not often just that I can't admit it that's the problem. It's that I can't see it. And it's probably different for everyone. Again, I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure for some people it is, maybe they can see it and they just don't want to admit it. And honestly, I feel like we all know at least one person who, like, we can kind of tell that the shadow is calling the shots, and they don't seem to have a lot of self-awareness about what's going on. And some of those people, it's like that they just live in a completely different reality from the rest of us. Like they couldn't see it if they wanted to. And then some people, it feels more like maybe they do see that they're behaving in ways that are, you know, unpleasant or unhealthy or, you know, whatever. But they just can't admit to themselves that they're not perfect. So I think it depends on the person. For Yosuke, I don't know. I think it's hard because they're so young. They're kids. But like I said, I could see a pretty healthy, normal progression for Yosuke, even if this never happened to him. I think that he has, his instincts are towards positive coping mechanisms. He is a doer. He is active. He reaches out to other people. I think he's just lacking engagement. and obviously stimulation, but those are things that he can find for himself. Elsewhere, he doesn't need to be in a big city to do that, and I think he would get there on his own, to be quite honest. But anyway, sorry, we could argue that Yosuke's shadow problem is maybe more of his internalized homophobia, but we won't get into that.
Is that supposed to be comforting? Damn it. It hurts to face yourself. I knew it wasn't lying, but I was so ashamed that I didn't want to admit it. You're me, and I'm you. When you get down to it, all of this is me. This is my persona.
Good job, Yosuke. I mentioned this in my last video. I think the shadow persona pairing that Persona likes to do is, I don't care for it. I think it's not a great, well, I mean, it's not just an inaccurate representation of Jungian theory. I mean, that would be fine. They can take some liberties. But I think it gives the wrong idea that the shadow is either on or off. And then once we face it, it's off, and now it's persona. And now we get to be our idealized selves because our scary, ugly self is now just done. In Persona 4 Arena, there is a little bit of exploration of this idea of like what would happen if the shadow came back. In reality, like the shadow's always there. Just because I had a really big, painful, transformative confrontation with my own shadow when I was 28, that doesn't mean there's nothing left in my shadow now. I mean, it's something I'll always have to be looking for and working on. But it's kind of the idea that, like, once you've done it the first time, it's a little easier. Every time you have to revisit it in the future, it's not going to be quite as much of a build-up to deal with as it's going to be that big time when you first have the big shadow showdown, right? It's once you know what you're doing and what you're looking for and you've been through it, it should be, ideally, if everything progresses well, it should be easier every time you have to face it, but it's never gonna go away entirely.
When we heard Senpai's voice, I wonder if that was something Senpai had been keeping deep down inside. He was a real pain in the ass, huh? What a way to find out. Jeez, this is so embarrassing. If you weren't here, I don't know what would have happened. Thanks. Hey, Teddy, could Senpai have been attacked by her other self here? Like how it just happened to me?
I think so. The shadows here were originally born from humans. Sometimes the fog clears, then they all go berserk. And you saw what happens next. A strong-willed shadow draws others to it, and the big mass of shadows kills the host.
So that's...
So there's this interesting thing happening in Persona 4 where, like, the shadow actively wants to kill the person and sort of take their place, which is kind of similar to the stupid bus metaphor I was talking about earlier, where it's like the shadow, when ignored and not incorporated into the rest of the self, is going to become hostile. It's not just going to become like more powerful and more difficult to, I guess, handle or control, it's going to try to actually like usurp your position, your being the conscious ego. It's going to try to take over for you and start making your decisions for you. And again, that's why it's kind of really obvious sometimes when someone is really being controlled by their shadow, because it just runs the show now. That's what it does. So it's an interesting and kind of scary idea that the shadow actively wants to kill its I don't know, progenitor person. It wants to just, I don't know, commit I want to say patricide, but that's not quite right. Anyway.
That's why people die when it gets foggy in our world.
Yosuke's pretty worn out. This world isn't made for humans. It's not comfortable for you here.
I think that's about it for Yosuke. Let's go find Chie now.
Chie, are you alright? Chie?
She said that red looks good on me.
Yukiko-san?
I hated my name. Yukiko. Snow. Snow is cold and it melts quickly. It's transient. Worthless. But it's perfect for me. Apart from inheriting the inn, I'm worthless. Still, Chie told me that red looks good on me.
Are these Yukiko-san's inner thoughts? I remember hearing Saki-senpai's too.
Yeah, this castle is probably here because of this Yukiko person.
Yukiko! Chie was the only one who gave my life meaning. She's bright and strong, and she can do anything.
So I kind of wonder, between this and Saki's unflattering inner monologue about Yosuke, are we hearing the palace, well, they're not palace, I don't know, the dungeon ruler's genuine thoughts? Are we hearing the shadow? Well, I mean, if we're hearing their thoughts, it would be their shadow's thoughts, not their actual thoughts. So are we hearing the thoughts of the shadow of the person in charge of the dungeon, or the person the dungeon was built around? Or are we hearing like Shadow Chie's projections onto Yukiko? I don't know, maybe that'll become clear and I just haven't like paid enough attention in the past to notice it, or maybe we'll just have to guess.
She has everything that I don't. Compared to Chie, Chie protects me. She looks after my worthless life. And I don't deserve any of it. Chie is so kind.
Yukiko, Chie is so kind, huh? What a joke. What?
Oh man, is that?
It's just like Yosuke. She lost control over her suppressed self. Now it's a shadow.
Are we talking about that, Yukiko? She says I'm protecting her. She says she's worthless. That's how it should be, right? What are you saying? Yukiko's so good looking, so fair-skinned, so feminine. She's the one all the guys drool over. When Yukiko looked at me with such jealousy, man, did I get a charge out of that.
So I feel like any woman who has been like the less attractive friend, it probably feels this so hard. When I was Chie's age, like, I also had a best friend who was a lot more popular than I was, who was thinner and better looking and more athletic and, you know, more better liked. And so, like, I feel Chie so hard because on the one hand, it's like, I genuinely love my best friend and I don't want to resent her for all the things she has that I don't. But at the same time, it's like, there's a part of you that can't help but resent. And so Chie has leaned into this sort of protector role. And as we'll see as she develops throughout the course of the game and throughout her social link, the protector is kind of like her calling. That's her thing. That's what gets her really excited, and what seems to be like a very positive motivation for her is this desire to be a protector. But here in the shadow, we've got this sort of distorted version of that power. The same power that can be used to protect can also be used to, you know, exploit and denigrate and, you know, I don't know, I know you have to be careful what kinds of things you say on YouTube, but like, to abuse. The power to protect, the power to abuse, they're two sides of the same coin. And here we're seeing a Chie who wants power because she wants to control Yukiko, and she wants to protect her, yes, but protect her in a way that keeps her dependent and keeps her inferior. To compensate for this resentment, I guess jealousy, but I don't even want to call it jealousy necessarily, because I don't think Chie wants to be what Yukiko is, but I think she sees that Yukiko benefits socially from having traits that Chie doesn't have, and it's hard not to feel resentful in a situation like that. So I think Chie she's contemplating this desire for power, and in her best ending, she's using that power positively to protect and to advocate for people who are weaker than her. But you could see an alternative Chie who never faces her shadow and who becomes more and more power hungry as a way to keep other people controlled and dependent upon her. I think it's really interesting that Chie expresses interest in becoming a police officer later on in the game. Now, I'm sure that, like, well, honestly, I have no idea if the Japanese police force carries the same kind of baggage that the police force does here in America, but here it's that wanting to be a police officer is very charged. And there is, again, that tension between the power to protect, the power to abuse. We see police officers here in the US do a lot of the latter with their power. But ideally, in the way that policing was meant to be, or is conceived of as being, you know, that should be to serve and protect. But, you know, is it like that in reality? It's, I guess, probably depends a lot on the person. I don't know. I feel like, again, I don't know if all these associations and all this baggage is associated with the Japanese police force. I might be a little bit off base making this connection, but I don't know. This feels like it would be a good question for my favorite Persona YouTuber, Lady Virgilia. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll try to message her and see if she acknowledges me. Anyway.
Yukiko knows the score. She can't do anything if I'm not around. I'm better than her. Much, much better. No! I've never thought that!
What are we gonna do?
So, sometimes, yeah, like, she may have never thought that consciously, but sometimes those thoughts are a little bit below the surface, to the point where, like, they're not even necessarily thoughts, because that implies that there would be some sort of, they would be in words, or there'd be some sort of, like, verbiage behind them. But but there were more just like kind of formless, latent emotions. So I'm sure Chie is sincere when she says she's never thought that she's better than Yukiko, but she's probably felt it at some point in some way.
We need to protect Chie-chan right now.
No, don't come near me. Don't look at me.
Chie, calm down!
No, this isn't me.
Wait, stupid! Don't say anything else like that!
That's right. I'm the one who can't do anything alone. I can't win as a girl, let alone as a person. I'm pathetic. But Yukiko, she depends on me.
It's honestly so sad. I can't win as a girl, let alone as a person. I 100% feel her here. I've never been necessarily like a tomboy, but I definitely sympathize with Chie's position, and honestly, it's like a little bit painful watching her go through this and kind of thinking back on what it was like for me to be Chie's age.
That's why she's my friend. I'll never loosen my grip on her. She's too important to me.
No, that's not how I think of her.
Again, it's probably not how she thinks of her, but it's probably at least a little bit how she feels about her.
So you're just going to turn your back and deny me again? But things are different now. When the time comes, I'll be the one left standing. You won't mind, right? I'm still you.
Yeah, see, again, we've got this desire of the shadow to kind of take over the personality. And in my last video, I included a quote from Jung's, well, it's a collection of Jung's essays. The collection is titled The Archetypes in the Collective Unconscious. And in one of these essays, he talks about, anyway, there's this quote from Jung's work that essentially says, like, the shadow is a living part of the personality and wants to live with it. If the shadow is denied the chance to live with the personality, then okay, it's gonna just be the personality. And that, I mean, that's what we're seeing here. The shadow has manifested because it's been repressed all this time, because it's been denied the chance to live with the personality. So now it's saying, you know what, I'm gonna be the personality. This is your last chance to incorporate and avoid that fate. So
Shut up! You're
Chie, no!
not me!
Chie!
It's coming! You have to use your powers to save Chie-chan!
let's look at this just a little bit. The fact that Monster Shadow Chie is sitting on top of like a tower of schoolgirls who are chained to her. Again, this is power being used to control and to oppress, not power being used to protect. Interesting. Anyway, let's fast forward through the combat and get to the resolution here.
Chie, are you okay?
What happened? What's the matter? Got nothing to say anymore?
Stop it, Chie. It's all right.
But... Everyone?
He's right. I went through the same thing, so I can understand. I mean, everyone has a side like this.
So true, and that is what is really important to remember is even if you think that you've got nothing in your shadow, you do. And if you couldn't think of anyone specific when I was talking earlier about how we all know someone who is pretty much completely controlled by their shadow, might be you.
Yeah, I kinda get it now. You are me, a side of me I couldn't forgive, that I tried to ignore, but you still exist. You're a part of me.
I'm glad she brought up the idea of forgiving the self here. You, you gotta be careful because, like, people have a hard time understanding what it is to forgive yourself, actually. Forgiving yourself isn't just, well, I guess I did something bad and I'll do it again, but I'm not perfect, so forgiving yourself is meant to be a restorative and progressive act that leads to growth, right? So, hey, I made a mistake. It's causing me pain. I am going to choose to resolve this somehow. Something that is really, I find really difficult to deal with in other people, and something that has really damaged my relationships with other people is the inability to forgive oneself. So, like, it is an important thing to do. If you hurt someone, you should feel bad, but what do you do after you feel bad, right? You make things right. You try to learn from the experience, you grow as a person, you don't do that thing again. What doesn't work and what doesn't help is just beating yourself up because you made a mistake and just wallowing in how bad you feel and not actually doing anything. So a lot of people think that remorse is where it ends, and that it's just, I feel really bad, I'm so sorry, I feel so bad, I fucked up, I'm a bad person, whatever. I have a very low tolerance for that. You can tell me you feel bad, awesome, cool, what are we doing next? How are we gonna move past this? What's the next step here? How do we repair the relationship? How do we help you learn something and become better from this? I don't want to hear you just talk about how bad you feel and then for nothing to ever change. Sadly, that seems to happen a lot. So forgiving the self is really important after you have this realization of, oh my god, I did something really bad, or oh my god, like, my shadow is calling the shots here and I couldn't even see it. Cool, you feel bad, you realize you did a bad thing. Next, we need to forgive, but forgive with the intention of moving forward and making constructive change. Not forgive in the sense that we're just going like, oh, well, nobody's perfect. Let me just continue turning a blind eye and I'll do the same thing in another week. So there's danger on both sides, right? On being too hard on yourself and being, I don't want to say not hard enough, but not taking seriously your opportunity for growth. Just like how when other people hurt us, that is always an opportunity for us to grow. When we hurt other people, that's also an opportunity for growth. So that's something to keep in mind when you're getting ready to face your own shadow. This is with the intent of changing, not with the intent of just acknowledging that it happened. Or just acknowledging that it's there.
It's true that part of me feels that way. But I wasn't lying about being friends with Yukiko.
Like we didn't know that already. Hey, Chie!
I'm okay. Just a little tired.
You don't look okay at all. And I bet you can use the same power we have now.
Huh?
Hey, what should we do?
Okay, I think that's about it for Chie. Geez, yeah, I feel bad for her. But she goes on to, like, this sets her on a good path. If Chie were to become a police officer, I'd be less worried about her than about others. The social links in Persona 4 all kind of follow a similar progression, where what happens here in the shadow confrontation kind of kicks off a process of self-reflection and reevaluation of their life's choices. But by the like rank 7 or 8, things start to get a little different, where like the immediate lesson they took away from the shadow confrontation at first evolves a little bit or becomes a little bit of something else as they sit with it and work on it, which is actually something I really appreciate, because again, this isn't a one-time thing where you just deal with your shadow and it's done. And there's a lot of fallout from dealing with your shadow. It was, probably the moment of reckoning with my shadow was a moment. Like, truly, I can remember the day that I finally said to myself, oh my god, maybe I'm the problem. But the fallout from that moment was several months of reevaluating, okay, what am I going to do differently now? How am I going to behave now that I realize that in a lot of ways I'm the one who has been creating my own problems. I'm the one who's been holding myself back, and I've been blaming the rest of the world for things that are really my fault. So now what do I do? How do I make different choices? What does my life look like post this realization? That takes quite a while. So I appreciate that Persona 4 uses the social links to sort of trace out this evolution of the internal conflict that the shadow is first identifying. Hold on. Oh, hold on. There's more here. I was gonna go watch Kanji, but there's more here. Let's give it a second.
Alright, let's get back to the entrance, though. It's dangerous around here.
I never said I needed a break. I can still keep going.
That's so Chie.
Don't overdo it.
It's not that we don't think you can. It's just, we have to save Yukiko-san no matter what. Now that you have the power, you can fight with us. It'd be much better for us all if you had your strength back. That's why we're saying we should go back and regroup.
But Yukiko's still in here, isn't she? If those were Yukiko's true feelings, then I have to tell her something. I'm not as strong as she thinks. It's because she was with me. Because we were always together, I was able to act that way. If we weren't,
Well, you need to get your strength back. Then you can tell her.
Sorry, Yukiko's next, not Kanji. That's cute. Okay. So, I had a thought and then I lost it. But anyway, good for Chie. Let's move on to Yukiko. What is this?
I knew it! There's two of her!
Oh? Ooh, what's this? 3 princes are here to see me. My. Are you the surprise guests who came in late? Oh, I wish I'd gotten a better look at you. My, it's getting crowded here. Why don't you and I go somewhere else? A land far, far away where no one knows me. If you're my prince, you'd take me there, won't you? Come on, pretty please?
So I find Yukiko's shadow conflict to be one of the most interesting ones. That's why I used it as an example in my last video. Basically, to reiterate everything I said there, Yukiko is someone who really values and desires autonomy and freedom. And she is just not in a situation that allows for that. So her shadow comes about as she represses this desire for freedom, just like Chie's comes about as she represses her desire for power over Yukiko, and like Yosuke's comes about as he represses his desire for stimulation and engagement. So Yukiko has repressed this desire for freedom. It's now sort of morphed into this miserable, helpless feeling of I can't do anything. I'm stuck here unless somebody comes to get me and takes me away from here because I can't possibly free myself. So whether that's, depending on Chie to make her life more interesting, or literally, waiting for a man to come in and whisk her away and financially support her, I guess. That's what her life looks like to her right now. Either that or just follow. I think in her social link she uses the phrase that she feels like her life is on rails, so she's just gonna follow the track and do what's been ordained for her, or is she gonna be saved by another entity? Anyway, like I said, Yukiko's central conflict is very interesting to me, even though I find Yukiko as a character to be pretty boring. I guess maybe because I identify with that need for autonomy and freedom, but I guess where Yukiko and I differ is that I did strike out on my own at a very young age, and I did make that decision with pretty full confidence. I mean, I was scared and unprepared, and I knew that, but it was never a question to me that my autonomy comes first. So it's just interesting to me to see, I guess, an alternate route of what might have happened if, instead of embracing and prioritizing my own frustrated need for autonomy, if I had just repressed it and it had become part of my shadow.
Oh, is this scoring a hot stud?
Shut up,
Three
Teddy.
princes? Wait, does that include me too?
Duh. The third one's gotta be me.
I seriously doubt that.
Chie. Yes, she's my prince. She always leads the way. Chie's a strong prince. Or at least she was.
Was?
When it comes down to it, Chie's just not good enough. She can't take me away from here. She can't save me.
Yukiko!
Stop. Historic inn? Manager training? I'm sick of all these things chaining me down. I never asked to be born here. Everything's decided for me, from how I live to where I die. I'm so sick of it. To hell with it all.
That's not true.
I just want to go somewhere far away. Anywhere but here. Someone please take me away. I can't leave here on my own.
So, the immediate fallout of this confrontation for Yukiko is that she decides, you know what, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna do it on my own because I can. Great. Good for her. Then, of course, she eventually comes to the conclusion that, you know what, it's not so much that I want to leave Inaba, it's not so much that I don't want to inherit my family's business, it's that I just want to feel like I have some choice in the matter. And ultimately she decides to stay and do exactly what she had been expected to do, that she really didn't want to all this time, because, she realizes that autonomy doesn't need to mean that she has to ignore duty. Those things can coexist, even if they kind of feel like they don't. Like, you can autonomously choose to fulfill your duty to another person or to your family or to your community. And so Yukiko, when she's in a position to make that choice from a place of freedom and realizing that she has the freedom to not make that choice, it becomes tolerable to her, I guess. And she realizes that, you know what, she does want to prioritize this place that means so much to her over being completely self-reliant. And that, I go back and forth on how much I like that ending for Yukiko, but I think it's a good one. I don't think it sends a bad message, like Risei's ending does, which we'll get to that later. But for Yukiko, I think it does actually make sense for her to come full circle and decide, you know what, this is what matters to me, and then I'm gonna stay here, but I'm gonna do it knowing that I could leave if I wanted to. And the fact that I think she says, like, she's still going to consider other career options, even though she's planning to stick around, like, that's just good advice in general, to just, you know, be prepared. It doesn't sound like the inn is in the most stable place financially, so it probably is good for her to have a backup plan. But anyway, all that to say, like, in this case, I can see how even though she ends up kind of in the same place where she started, it is an empowering journey, and I think it doesn't send a disempowering message. If anything, I think it does a good job differentiating between what autonomy actually is and what a child's idea of freedom is.
I'm completely useless. Stop. Please stop. I have no hope if I stay, and no courage to leave. So I sit on my ass, hoping that someday my prince will come. I don't care where we go. Anywhere's fine. As long as it's not here, I don't give a damn. Historical tradition, pride of the town, what a bunch of bullshit.
How dare you?
That's how I really feel. Isn't that right, me?
No!
Stop! Don't say it!
No! You're not me! This feels wonderful. It's building. More and more. If this keeps up, I'll...
Yukiko!
We have to stop it! That girl's in danger!
We know!
It's all right, Yukiko. Just hang in there. We'll save you!
I am a shadow, the true self. Now, my prince, why don't we dance and make merry together?
So the shadows always announce themselves when they show up in the boss battles as the true self. And obviously the true self, the self, is the shadow and the persona and all the other archetypes and the conscious ego and all of it together. That is the self. But it's interesting, the shadows are claiming to be the true selves, because that's kind of what makes them so scary, right? Is the idea that they might actually be the true self, that maybe all of the things about me that I'm proud of and that I want other people to see, maybe that's all fake, that's all a lie, maybe it's all persona and none of it's sincere. And this ugly, scary, gross part of me that I try not to look at, that's the real me, that's the core of me. But obviously that's not true. It's all you. And the good and the bad are equally parts of you, and that's important to remember. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's interesting getting really like fine pointed and nitty gritty with these, because I notice a lot of interesting stuff. Cool. Let's skip through combat and find our resolution. Jesus, this is a long boss battle. You know what? It was a long one for me too. There we go.
Yukiko! Yukiko, are you hurt?
No, I'm not.
We understand. You're not the only one like that, Yukiko-san. Everyone has something they can't show to other people, or don't want to admit to themselves.
And that's exactly it. It's either we don't want to show other people, or we don't want to admit to ourselves. And that's where the persona shadow dichotomy is. The persona is the self we want to be public, and shadow is the self that we have to keep private. Obviously they're both us. I think imagining a universe in which Yukiko does not face her shadow, I could see it going two ways. Like, one, because I feel like, I don't know everyone's canonical birthday, but I feel like based on when this is set, these kids would probably be almost my age now in the present day, probably be around 30. So I'm imagining like a 30-year-old Yukiko. So either she could be managing the inn and just miserable and constantly wondering what else is out there and what else she could be doing and what else she might be feeling or experiencing if she hadn't been born in the situation she was born in. Or possibly worse, she could meet a man who takes her away. And that could be a really dangerous situation, especially if she's not prepared to financially support herself in any other way than managing the inn. If she doesn't have a career or a means to make money, and she's financially dependent on a man who takes her away from her hometown and away from her family, that could end really badly for her. Oh shit, the ice cream truck's outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it. The ice cream truck likes to hang out right outside my apartment every night. Yeah, I can't record in this. Hold on. Okay, ice cream truck has finally left.
Yukiko.
Oops. I also realized that one, my fan was on the whole time, so hopefully that wasn't too bad. And two, I wasn't using headphones, so you know, I'll eventually I'll make a competent video. I'll do it one of these days, I promise. All right. Let's get back into Yukiko.
I'm sorry. I was so self-centered that I never understood what you were going through. I'm your friend, and I'm so sorry.
Chie.
I was always jealous of you, Yukiko. You had everything that I didn't. That jealousy was like a wall, and I was so lonely. I wanted you to need me. But it was me who needed you. I can't do anything right on my own. I've caused so much trouble for Yosuke and the others. If you weren't by my side, I wouldn't know what to do.
Chie. I never saw the real you either. I was too busy trying to find an easy way out.
This is honestly so sweet, and I'm so glad that these girls got to have this like moment or this experience of getting to, one, see themselves, and then two, see each other in the way that, you know, they wanted to all along. It's really heartwarming, and something that I think is important to bring up is that when you don't deal with the shadow, when you're ignoring it, there is a tendency towards projection. So when you have a problem, but you don't want to admit that the problem is you, you're going to project that problem onto someone else or something else. So for me, I really wanted to see myself as a victim of circumstance, because I was this really bright kid who had been led to believe that the world was going to be at my fingertips because I was so smart, and then things just didn't end up going the way they were supposed to at all. And I found myself alone, trying to support myself, trying to somehow get myself an education. And when things were hard for a really long time, and I realized that I had spent 10 years working minimum wage jobs and having no health insurance and not being able to finish a degree, I just really went to a dark place, and I saw it all as the world's fault. And it wasn't for lack of trying that I ended up in the position that I did. But my attitude certainly was not doing me any favors, and it was not helping me get out of that situation whatsoever. I viewed myself as a victim of circumstance, and I essentially threw up my hands and said, there's nothing I can do. The world has just ruined me, and this is, I'm a victim of the world, and there's nothing that can be done. It wasn't until I had this reckoning that, maybe my cynical, pessimistic, antisocial attitude is holding me back and making it even harder for me to find success in a definitely difficult world. And it was after that I started being able to make positive changes in my own life that led to me now being in a much better position where, I have a job where I make a lot more money than I used to. I mean, I'm not balling out or anything, but definitely not making minimum wage anymore. And I go to a really good school, and it's difficult to, work full time and go to school as well, but I'm doing it, and I'm really, really, really grateful to be where I am. But that happened because I was able to say, you know what, it's not all everybody else. My problems are not 100% out there. Some of it's in here. And that projection of the problems onto other people can be really problematic in close relationships like Chie and Yukiko's, where they're both feeling unsatisfied, and that's manifesting as like jealousy of each other, or of maybe even a little like distrust of each other, or a need to, in Chie's case, like control Yukiko, and in Yukiko's case, resentment that Chie can't quite get her where she wants to go. These projections are going to cause problems in the friendship, and now that they've been able to confront their shadows, and what's more is like see each other confront their shadows, like they get to be free of those projections and now just get to be friends without them, and that's really sweet and lovely, and I'm very happy for them.
I want to run away. I want someone to save me. You're right. Those feelings are part of me too. I understand now. You're me.
Yukiko!
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm just a little tired. You all came to rescue me.
Of course!
Thank you.
Don't even mention it. I'm just so glad you're safe.
Right on.
So, who threw you in here?
Okay. So that was Yukiko. This is taking me longer than I thought it would. So let's do Kanji, and then maybe I'll do the rest of the crew tomorrow or another day. Let's see. Kanji. Kanji is one I'm gonna be thinking about quite a bit. Kanji and Naoto both, I think there is maybe a story in there about the anima / the animus, which is a Jungian concept that I've honestly kind of struggled to understand and to, I guess, there's some like problematic gender stuff there, and just in general it's kind of difficult for me to understand, but it's crystallizing for me. I feel like I'm getting there, and I feel like there might be something interesting to say about Kanji once I get there, but anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about right now. We're going to talk about Kanji's shadow.
Kanji!
Oh, come now! Enough with the charade. Isn't it awful to deceive people? To deceive yourself? What's so bad about doing what I want to do?
And that has nothing to do with it.
I'm what you really want, aren't I?
Hell no!
Oh, how I hate girls.
Yeah, I feel ya, Kanji. Girls suck.
So arrogant and self-centered. They cry if you get angry, they gossip behind your back, they spread nasty lies, they look at me like some disgusting thing, and say that I'm a weirdo.
If you've ever met a misogynistic gay man, you know you know what's going on here.
Laughing at me all the while. You like to sew? What a queer. Painting is so not you. But you're a guy. You don't act like a guy. Why aren't you manly?
Poor Kanji, like, it breaks my heart to see toxic masculinity warp him to the point where he becomes that which has created the problem for him.
What does it mean to be a guy? What does it mean to be manly?
It means whatever you want it to mean, Kanji. It is 2025. Well, not for you, but for me it is. And being a man can be whatever you want it to be.
Girls are so scary. I ain't scared of them! Men are much better. They'd never say those awful, degrading things.
Okay, maybe not to you.
Yes, I vastly prefer men. Hell with that! What makes you think you can say that shit with my face? Why, you're me. And I'm you. You do know that, don't you?
I feel a little weird about how this game handles Kanji's sexuality because, like, I think it would be fine for him to be gay or, like, even just bisexual. In fact, in my mind, he is canonically bisexual. It feels like they're trying to, with Naoto too, it feels like they're kind of trying to have their LGBT cake and eat it too, where it's, you know, we're approaching an interesting and compelling, you know, story about a closeted young gay man and what has led him to, you know, behave this way. But then at the end, it kind of gets like, oh, well, you know, it's not really about being gay. It's about, you know, his image of masculinity and expanding that to include the things that he likes to do that are not masculine. Like he could be gay. Like, I don't know why he had to like be fake gay to get there, and why he has to be not gay in the end. It's I don't know. I'm not one of those people who like wants everyone in media to be gay. Like, I'm really not. But I just feel like in this specific instance, like just let the boy be gay. I mean, whatever. That's beside the point, though.
No. Nuh-uh. No way! There's no way in hell that you're me! You're me, and there's no denying it!
Kanji-kun!
Everyone, on guard!
I am a shadow. The true self. I'm just being true to myself. And that's why I'll get rid of anything in my way!
So this might be a good time to talk about defensiveness and the shadow. We see Kanji getting quite violently defensive when faced with the implication that, you know, he might be gay. Defensiveness is like one of the hallmarks of the shadow. Well, of the shadow being in your vicinity, I guess. When the shadow is activated, or when somebody like puts a finger on it, we tend to get very defensive. And in fact, that is how I have for years and years trained myself to recognize when there's something going on. So even before my like big shadow moment in my late 20s, I was able to kind of have these like smaller brushes with the shadow, because I had learned that when I get defensive, that means there's something there. It may not be the exact thing that I'm being accused of or that's being brought up, but like I wouldn't feel this defensive if it wasn't hitting on something, some sort of fear or something in myself that I don't like or that I don't care to see. If someone makes an accusation or a comment to you that is not true about you whatsoever, and you know that it's not true about you whatsoever, you may still get angry or offended, but it's a very different feeling, that sort of like calm, clear, righteous anger, as opposed to that panicked, anxious, defensive anger, where it's just like a blind, like I have to fight this right now. As opposed to like, yeah, if somebody, you know, calls me stupid, it's, I know I'm not stupid. I've never been stupid. You know, it might still be a little offensive to me, but I'm not gonna, you know, start losing my mind over it. But, you know, back when I was stuck in my victim complex era, we'll say, here, let me include Clem in the frame. If somebody were to point out to me that, you know, maybe I could be doing things a little differently, and then maybe my life would look different if I made different choices, like I would get really angry, but that would be like a defensive anger where it like burned in me, and it felt very different. It felt heightened and anxious and like physical, because like there was that like anxiety that something real is being said to me, or maybe, you know, I somebody sees that I'm fake, or that I'm, you know, not, that my life isn't exactly what I say it is, I guess. There is a lot of like, I think panicked is a good word for the kind of tinge that the emotion takes on when you've got that like shadow defensiveness going on. And Kanji here's got it written all over him. And not even just here in this instance, but like in general, he is willing to fight pretty hard in order to get rid of anything that makes him question himself. Anyway, let's skip through our combat.
Have I gotten a little stronger?
Damn it.
Kanji-kun,
Wait, Yukiko, something's wrong.
It's still coming at us! Kanji is still rejecting it!
Well, I can't blame him with this many witnesses.
Such a passionate approach.
What?
I think that you three would make wonderful boyfriends.
Stop it! You got it all wrong.
Enough. Stop! What the hell are you blabbering about? I don't care who! Won't someone, anyone please accept me?
That just breaks my heart. The poor boy.
Stop it! Accept me for who I am!
Whoa, whoa! I really don't swing that way!
I said stop it! Can't believe something like this is inside me.
Kanji, you're...
Yeah, I know. I've known all this time I had something like you. It ain't a matter of guys or chicks. I'm just scared shitless of being rejected.
Honestly, real. I feel that 100%. Ugh. And only Kanji would accept his shadow by punching it.
I'm a total pansy who tries to make everyone hate me. I know. I need to accept this, right? Come on, get up. Anyone who looks like me, I know they ain't so weak that they can't take a punch. I already know that you're me. You're me. And I'm you, damn it.
I don't know how Kanji isn't your favorite character, if he's not.
Shit.
Kanji-kun!
Let's get him out of here.
Well, that was pretty, like, short. I feel like he got less to do and say than the others. Yeah, so... do I want to get into the anima right now? Not really, but... basically, Kanji here is struggling to accept his inner feminine qualities. And I guess what we're meant to believe is that, like, he's associated his inner feminine qualities with, like, being gay somehow, and so that's why his shadow appears to be aggressively homosexual. So the one thing surrounding the anima that I do agree with and think is useful and interesting is the idea that basically every single one of us has masculine and feminine qualities. And when I say masculine and feminine, I mean like archetypal masculine, archetypal feminine. I hate needlessly gendering things. In fact, I just hate gendering behaviors or like anything. Like anyone can be anything, and I hate like associating certain character traits with certain genders. Like I don't know. It just bugs me. But that like I cannot deny that there is an archetypal feminine. There is an idea of what is feminine that is central to culture. Same thing with masculine. I mean, we have yin and yang, Logos and Eros, Venus and Mars. Like, that duality is huge, and even I can't deny that those associations exist. Now, archetypal feminine traits can be in a dude, that's totally fine. And Jung's idea was that, like, we all have both the internal feminine archetype and the internal masculine archetype, and that we need to kind of embrace both and unify them in order to be whole, and to, you know, continue with our individuation journey. So Kanji here is relegating his inner feminine to the shadow, but the shadow doesn't usually appear to us as being a different gender from what we identify as. So I guess a gay man is the next best thing to a woman. I mean, that feels problematic in and of itself. A lot of gay men are not feminine, but I guess we gotta treat Persona 4 like a product of its time. And oh geez, when was this? Like, this has got to be around 2010-ish that this story first came out, and for then this was probably pretty, for Japan this was probably pretty progressive, but you know, still some interesting baggage to examine in 2025. I am really interested to see if they'll change anything in the remake, or if we're just gonna keep at it like it is. I mean, I think Shadow Kanji being gay would be totally fine if Kanji was gay in the story. But if Kanji's not gonna be gay, then, like, maybe his shadow shouldn't be. I don't know. What do I know? Anyway, I'm going to take a break here. Tomorrow, or another day when I have time this week, we'll do at least Rise and Teddy. Well, at that point we just got Rise, Teddy, Naoto. Yeah, we'll do the rest tomorrow.